Hello everybody and welcome back to another EP video. Let's discuss what could have been the nightmare scenario for the 2020 election. With so many more people than usual casting absentee ballots, observers feared that a significant share of ballots would be rejected for not following proper procedure. One study, for instance, showed that first-time male voters who are less familiar with the rules of absentee voting were up to 3 times more likely to have their votes rejected. And at least 550,000 absentee ballots went uncounted during last spring and summer's heavily vote-by-mail primary elections. But those fears did not come to pass. According to data collected by state election offices, not only did absentee ballot rejection rates not rise, but rejected ballots were actually less of a problem than they were in 2016. From the 27 states plus Washington, D.C., where we were able to obtain data, less than 300,000 of the nearly 50 million absentee ballots cast in the 2020 general election were rejected, which comes out to a rejection rate of about 0.6%. And in 20 of the 23 jurisdictions that provided data for the last 2 presidential elections, the 2020 rejection rate was lower than 2016's. That being said, data is not yet available in the remaining states, but will eventually be released as part of the 2020 election, administration, and voting survey. For many states, the number of rejected absentee ballots turned out to be an incredible success story. Massachusetts, for example, cut its rejection rate from a mediocre 3.3% in 2016 to an excellent 0.6% in 2020. For reference, historically, states have had rejection rates up to 6%. The state of Maryland rejected about the same number of absentee ballots in 2020, 3,669, as it did in 2016, 3,672, despite 9 times as many total absentee ballots being cast, 1.5 million versus 177,000. Another 4 states also rejected fewer ballots in absolute terms in 2020 than they did in 2016, despite a sizable increase in the total number of absentee ballots cast. So what's behind this remarkable success? Election administration experts have cited several factors, but a major one was that voters submitted their absentee ballots early. That is important because in a normal election, the number one reason that absentee ballots are not counted is that they arrive too late. But in 2020, several states reported steep drop-offs in the share of absentees received after the deadline. For instance, in Delaware, the share of absentee ballots that arrived late decreased from 1.3% in 2016 to 0.2% in 2020. In Maryland, it decreased from 1.3% to 0.1%. And in Massachusetts, it decreased from 1.7% to 0.04%. According to the data for all of these 3 states, plus Minnesota, Oklahoma, South Carolina, and Vermont, this drop-off in late ballots accounted for a majority of their overall reduction in rejected ballots. One reason for this is obvious. Voters simply listened to their election officials' advice to send back their absentee ballots as early as possible. Constant reminders in the media and saturation coverage of the problems at the U.S. Postal Service likely helped as well. But states by and large also proactively changed their election policies to prevent ballots from getting tossed due to lateness. Several states extended their deadlines so that ballots could arrive after Election Day, so long as they were properly postmarked. Some states also gave voters ways to return their ballots other than mailing them back, which of course can take several days. Indeed, according to preliminary findings from the Survey of Performance of American Elections, 45% of mail ballots were dropped off in person in 2020, up from 29% in 2016. And in large part, this was because of an increased access to ballot drop boxes. At least 38 states plus Washington, D.C. offered drop boxes in the 2020 general election, up from about 13 that did so before 2020. Other states also implemented reforms to speed up the USPS's ability to process ballots. More states used intelligent mail barcodes on their ballot envelopes that allowed the Postal Service to know where ballots were and make sure that they were processed in a timely manner. Massachusetts was one of those states. Election officials applied for 351 separate postal permits for special envelopes, with barcodes pre-addressed to the 351 city and town clerks across the Commonwealth. So instead of having to be hand-stamped, the envelopes could be processed automatically, leading to faster delivery. Ballot lateness, however, was not the only problem that got better in 2020. Some states were also able to cut into the second most common reason absentee ballots tend to get rejected: that being voter error, such as a missing or invalid signature on the ballot envelope. For example, 15 states plus Washington, D.C. once again began offering voters the ability to cure or fix mistakes on their absentee ballots. And that was on top of the 17 states that already allowed ballot curing before 2020. State data suggests that this prevented thousands of ballots from being rejected. In the state of Kentucky, which temporarily changed its election laws last year to allow ballot curing, 2,933 ballots were cured, leaving only 1,197 that were rejected. And in Georgia, a state that had a cure process previously, 2,777 ballots were cured, cutting the number of ballots that were eventually rejected to 7,604. All of that being said, it was not just that states changed their policies. Technical advancements made a huge difference as well. Going into 2020, only one state had a full statewide ballot tracking system that would notify voters of an issue right away. But now there are 6. And a lot of other states did not adopt a full tracking system, but they did put the information on their website so voters could look it up. Some of these systems were incredibly quick and easy for voters, such as Colorado's Text to Cure program, which sent voters of discrepant ballots a text message with a link where they could upload a photo of their ID and sign a voter affidavit right on their smartphone. In addition, organizations such as the Center for Civic Design worked with states to design more user-friendly ballots and envelopes. Things like plain language voter instructions and an X in the signature box so voters know where to sign went a long way. According to the CCD's executive director, 18 states plus Washington, D.C. adopted its designs or instructions last year, either statewide or in select counties. One of those states was North Carolina, whose dramatically more legible envelope may have had a significant impact. According to preliminary data from the State Board of Elections, the share of absentee ballots tossed for incomplete witness information went from 1.4% in 2016 to 0.6% in 2020. Moving on, it is certainly true that public service journalism in the media showing voters exactly how to cast their absentee ballots helped many first-time mail voters avoid potential rejections. But ultimately, the low rejection rate could have also been a testament to the voters themselves. This was such an important election that voters may have taken those messages to heart and took extra care to follow the directions, resulting in a lot of people spending extra time thinking about how to make sure that their vote was counted. Ultimately, the verdict will not be final until we get data for all 50 states. But at this point, it does seem as if most states were very successful at lowering their absentee ballot rejection rates in 2020. And it is extremely crucial that we take note of exactly how they did that. Last fall's efforts to keep rejection rates low were not undertaken automatically. They were born out of experience, both good and bad. Red flags and alarm whistles were going off after the primaries last year, galvanizing many states to fix the policies and systems that had led to so many uncounted ballots. But now it will be up to states to take exactly what they learned from 2020 to keep rejection rates as low as possible in future elections. That is all for today's video. I hope you all enjoyed. Please make sure to follow my personal Instagram and EP Official on all social medias shown on screen and linked in the description down below. Also, comment your thoughts and opinions in the comment section, and please hit the like button if you liked the video as well. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you all so much for watching. Check out more content from my channel here, and as always, tune in next time. EP out.